Darkcast Network. The light shines brightest on our indie podcasts.
Welcome to Ford in Vegas, a true crime podcast with two friends who hate each other to death. I'm Ford, and I'm joined by my worst friend. In fact, he's the worst friend a guy could ever ask for. Vegas?
Yeah. I mean, we haven't done the show in a while because I almost, kicked your ass. I couldn't stand you. You've done a couple shows without me because I was going to quit the show because I hated you so much. But for the betterment of the enjoyment of others, I sucked it up and punched a pillow a couple times, and we're good. Okay, as
Very
much as
good.
we can be.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
psychiatrist told you to punch pillows, right?
Yeah. He said to punch pillows, not people, and
Good.
sometimes that works. And you had almost did it, but I did it because, I happen to like your wife, so I didn't want to hurt her by hitting you.
If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to like the video. If you're on the go, you can get this show on podcast form. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button there. You can do all of this, FordinVegas.com. $3 a month is our Patreon to get the show ad-free. Patreon.com/FordinVegas. FordinVegas is the Twitter handle. That's FORDAND Vegas. And if you want to buy a Ford in Vegas shirt, you could do so at shopFordinVegas.com. Always recommend Premium Soft. Also, we are a proud member of the Darkcast Network, the best indie true crime podcast network on God's green earth. And yes, it has been a long time since we've done a show here, the Ford in Vegas True Crime Podcast. Thank you for still being subscribers, and thank you for bearing with us as real life just sometimes gets in the way. But hopefully, Vegas, we can start to get the old train back on the tracks.
Yeah, we should be able to work out a schedule that works for both of us. Obviously, I'm not in studio anymore because I hate your guts that much. That was part of the deal.
Correct.
I said I would come back, but I'd have to be at my casa, and you'd have to be at yours.
Correct. So I am in the studio loft, Boogie Down Jones, all by my lonesome. Sometimes I have my cat in here with me, but tonight it is just myself. And Vegas, you are of course at the Studio Vegas. There. What's your who's going to buy the rights to your studio there? Probably maybe like a Blue Chew or Get Help. Who do you think's going to get the naming rights to your studio over there?
Probably the Suicide Hotline.
There we go. So we'll start this episode a little differently than we start others here at Ford in Vegas. Vegas, I can't remember if you were on the show with me or not. This may have been a solo show, but do you remember the white woman who accused Emmett Till of whistling at and accosting her in Mississippi in 1955? Were you on that show when I talked about that, or is it just me?
No, I mean, I was on a show that we talked about Emmett Till and how they still wanted to prosecute her, even though she didn't beat him, kind of thing.
Yes. Well, they don't have to worry about that anymore because she died. That's right. She died at 88 years old. It looks like it just was today, really. Here as we record this podcast on the 27th of April. Carolyn Bryant Donham died in hospice care late She died on Tuesday, late Tuesday night in Westlake, Louisiana, according to a death report that was filed today. Her death marks the last chance, the absolute last chance for anyone to be held accountable for the kidnapping and the murder that shocked the world back in 1955. Till's mother, Mamie Till Mobley, insisted in an open casket funeral in their hometown of Chicago so the world could see her 14-year-old son's mutilated body, which was pulled from a river in Mississippi. Jet Magazine published the photos. I have not seen those, and I don't plan on it. In August of 1955, Till had traveled from Chicago to visit relatives in Mississippi. Donham, then 21, named Carolyn Bryant, accused him of making improper advances on her at a grocery store where she was working in the small community of Money. Reverend Wheeler Parker, a cousin of Till who was there, has said Till whistled at the woman, an act that flew in the face of Mississippi's racial social codes of that era. What a bygone era this is. Evidence indicates a woman identified Till to Donham's then husband, Roy Bryant, and his half-brother, J.W. Millam, who killed the teenager. An all-white jury, of course, acquitted the two white men in the killing. Times were different back then. But the men later confessed in an interview with Look magazine. When Till disappeared in Mississippi, Ollie Gordon, one of Till's cousins, was 7 years old and living in the Chicago home with Till's mother and family. Gordon told the Associated Press on Thursday that in the days after he went missing, the home was full of fear because people knew there was a strong likelihood that he had been killed. Gordon said he has mixed emotions about Donham's death. She was never tried in the court of man, but I think she was judged by God, and his wrath is more punitive than any judgment or penalty she could have gotten in a courtroom. I don't think she had a pleasant or happy life. Vegas, I would think if there is a heaven or a hell, a heaven and a hell, I think maybe Carolyn may be downstairs. What do you think?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
She lived to be 88, so God didn't hate her that much. You know what I'm saying? Like,
but they do say Vegas that the good die young.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. So maybe she is, guilty. But she didn't really kill him, though, right? It was just her brother and her cousin.
No, it was her husband and
husband and brother,
and his brother, I think, or her brother. I don't know.
But like, would you
half
like, like when we go to Russia, right? And we, the Americans, get a little bit of marijuana, and you go to prison, in Russia because you're, violating their laws. Would this, even though it was terribly wrong, and it was terribly a not just thing, he's coming from Chicago and whistling at a white woman in Mississippi. Like, don't you think that his parents should have told him, don't do that?
Well, that's the racist social codes. I don't think it was illegal.
Oh, it wasn't illegal?
No, I just think that socially, the black man shouldn't be whistling at the white woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, still, he didn't deserve to die. For whistling at a white woman.
No. So, Parker is the last living witness to Till's abduction. He said in interviews and speeches that he heard Till whistle at the woman working behind the counter at Bryant's grocery store and meat market. Days later, Parker saw men kidnap Till in the dark of night from their uncle's home in Mississippi where the teenagers were staying. Parker said Thursday that his heart goes out to Donham. As a person of faith for more than 60 years, I recognize that any loss of life is tragic and don't have any ill will or animosity toward her, even though no one will now be held accountable for the death of my cousin and best friend. It is up to all of us to be accountable for the challenges we face in an overcoming racial injustice. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Thursday that President Joe Biden was proud to sign the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act last year to make lynching a federal crime. I can't believe it took that long. president is committed to dealing with racial hatred, Jean-Pierre said. In an unpublished memoir obtained by the AP in 2022, Donham said she was unaware of what would happen to Till. Historian and author Timothy Tyson of Durham, North Carolina, provided a copy of the 99-page manuscript. I am more than a wolf whistle to AP, he said he received it from Donham while interviewing her in 2008. So she's claiming her side of the story. As we know, there's three of them, yours, mine, and the truth. She is saying that she did not realize, and that could very well be the case. That very well could be the case. She could have said something thinking, hey, maybe my husband, his half-brother will rough him up a little bit, put a little scare into him, maybe not even do anything at all. And then these guys took it to a whole nother level. That is a possibility.
And I mean, yeah, it's very well a plausible scenario, because she could have literally, I mean, how many people today that have nothing, it has nothing to do with race, but they're like, oh, this person looked at me funny or whatever, and they beat him up in the bar. I mean, it happens. People protect their their women and family. So and obviously they admitted killing him, so they didn't face their justice. So, and but that it's a sick part of history. I always thought lynching was illegal, because when you're lynch somebody, it's it's attempted murder. Like, that's illegal. Like, you can't do it. So I don't understand the anti-lynching law, that like it's illegal to lynch people. Like,
well, I think it's made a federal crime. Probably wasn't considered a federal crime.
well, murder is a federal crime. I mean, attempted
I'm
murder is a
telling you
federal crime.
I don't know. But last year, we talked about it on this show, members of the new Black Panther Party and other activists began showing up at addresses associated with Donham, including in North Carolina and Kentucky. They were there to serve unofficial warrants for her arrest and trial. Weeks after the unserved warrant arrest was found, the Office of Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch said that there was no new evidence to pursue a criminal case against Donham. In August, the district attorney said the Lafleur County grand jury declined to indict Donham. I believe that was what we were covering last year, but they declined to indict her. Till's cousin Priscilla Sterling filed a federal lawsuit against the current Lafleur County Sheriff, Ricky Banks, on February 7, seeking to compel him to serve the 1955 warrant on Donham. In a response, April 13, Banks' attorney said that there was no point serving the warrant because the grand jury did not indict Donham last year. Malik Shabazz, one of the attorneys in the lawsuit against Banks, said it's tragic that Mississippi never held Donham accountable. Carolyn Bryant's legacy, according to him, this is his quote, will be one of dishonesty and injustice, Shabazz said, a legacy that verifies that Mississippi coddles and protects white supremacy, end quote. Might be a little hyperbole there from Mr. Shabazz, but be that as it may, Carolyn Bryant Donham is DOA. And now no one will be held accountable in the court of law for what happened to Emmett Till.
Yeah, people get their emotions into it. You can't just serve a warrant from 1955 because just to arrest her and then have to let her go because there's no evidence that she did anything.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, her side of the story is, obviously her side of the story, but it is that of, I didn't know what was going to go down.
Yeah, and it could be true, or she could have went up and said, "Hey, I want you to go kill this man or kid." I guess, what was he, 15? I mean, he's a kid. I want you to go kill this kid. Then yeah, but we'll never know. We'll never find out the truth unless she has written a confession somewhere and somebody finds it or releases it. We'll never know for sure.
3 have been arrested, so we'll go from Mississippi to Colorado. These 3 retards. I know you're not supposed to use that word, but good Lord, these 3 retards arrested for first-degree murder in Colorado for rock throwing incidents that killed a 20-year-old driver. I mean, we should just skip everything and just put these three down, because this is a waste of 3 social security numbers. I'll tell you that. 3 suspects have been arrested for allegedly throwing large landscaping rocks towards at least 7 cars on Colorado roads last week. The last of the 7 incidents claimed the life of a 23-year-old, Alexa Bartell. The suspects, all 18-year-old high school seniors, were taken into custody at their parents' homes in Arvada overnight and are all facing charges of first-degree murder with extreme indifference, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office announced Wednesday morning. It's not clear which suspect or suspects, identified as Joseph Koenig, Nicholas Mitch Karol-Chik, and Zachary Queck, were driving during the spree, but all 3 are suspected of throwing rocks at some point. It appears that they threw rocks while driving, and the stupidity rages on. Around 10:45 p.m. on April 19, Bartell was driving when someone threw a large rock through her windshield, hitting her and killing her. In the hour before Bartell was killed, 6 other cars in the area had rocks thrown at them, according to the sheriff's office. In 2 of those incidents, the driver suffered minor injuries. Nathan Tipton, a Lyft and Uber driver, was one of the 4 uninjured victims. When I found that this series of events actually took a young lady's life, I feel for Alexa and her family. Put me in a bit of shock. My wife, it really got to her. Nobody should lose their children for a random act. It's heartbreaking, said Tipton, a dad of 3. Sheriff's office said phone forensics and information from the public helped lead to the arrests of these 3 clowns. They're worse than clowns. As the 3 suspects made their first court appearance today, prosecutors said the community is outraged at their mental retardation, and the teens' reckless and irresponsible actions took away an innocent life. The teens, who were held on no bond, no thanks, were set to return to court on May 3. I mean, Vegas. There is stupid, and then there's this.
Yeah. Let's first of all, I want to know, you're throwing landscape boulders. Like, they're not small little pebbles that you skip across the pond, right? So they're big enough rocks to shatter windshields and hit somebody in the face. Like, what are you doing?
Can't you just spray paint cars like the rest of us did? Or spray paint walls, or TP somehow? What happened to TP in houses?
Yeah, what happened to that? I mean, Halloween, we used to go TP in houses, and then it would rain, because I grew up in Chicago, and it would rain on Halloween every year. And it would be impossible to get off, and you're like, ha ha ha, it's a good prank, and it was over. Nobody got hurt, nobody got killed. But no, nowadays, teens that are going to graduate high school in a few months, they said, you know what? We're going to go out and start throwing boulders at cars while we're driving, because that seems like a productive idea.
I just can't fathom the stupidity that these 3 kids. So it's 4 lives that essentially have been ruined here. 1 innocently, and 3 because they're fucking stupid.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I don't think I've ever had the urge to throw rocks at cars while I'm driving or riding in a car. Maybe that's because I'm not stupid.
It's got to be it.
That sounds like this story sounds like it's an Ohio or Florida story.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's a Colorado story. Believe it or not.
I thought they were smarter in Colorado.
You know what I forgot to remind you of before we get to our third story? I forgot to remind you to give me a mug shot of the week.
Oh yeah, you forgot.
It's been so did you. I mean,
it's true.
It is your segment, but
it is my segment.
You haven't done it in so long that Forgot to have you do that. Well, next time.
Yeah, we'll get it next time.
For those of you unfamiliar, Vegas finds the absolute best mug shot he could find. We even have an intro song for that segment.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I remember the intro. I don't remember the exact intro, but I remember having one. Yeah.
It's been that long. I'm looking for it here. I think it's been that long. I don't even have it loaded up. Yeah, I don't even have it loaded up. It's been that long.
Yeah. Well, everybody tune in next time. We'll definitely have the mugshot of the week.
Absolutely. I'm going to read you this headline, Vegas, and I want you to tell me what state it's from.
Okay.
Since you just brought up the previous where you thought that story would be from. Uber Eats driver is dismembered after food delivery in demonic murder.
Oh, I mean that sounds like a deep down West Virginia story.
Oh. It's a story out of Florida.
Oh, see, I don't put demonic things in Florida. I don't think that.
A man was arrested Tuesday after the brutal murder of an Uber Eats driver who was dismembered, allegedly just after a food delivery, in what Florida officials have described as a demonic crime. Oscar Adrian Solis, 30, is charged with murder while engaged in robbery in the death of Randall William Cook, who was 59, according to a Pasco County court record. Pasco County Sheriff Chris Noco announced the arrest, describing the case as a horrific crime of passion. This person, we always say the word evil, but this is demonic. Cook's wife reported him missing on April 19 after he failed to return home or answer his phone, even though he had sent her a text saying that he was on his last delivery of the night. And this is kind of why this story sucks. This is his last delivery of the night. All he is doing is bringing this idiot food. Pasco County Sheriff detectives went to the site of Cook's last known delivery and spoke with Solis's roommate, Glenn Heil, who allowed detectives access to security video. A clip from 6:56 p.m. showed Cook at the door with a delivery bag, but then it cuts off after about 30 seconds. Video from cameras in the back of the home showed men carrying large black trash bags out of the home the next morning. Heil gave a detective a written consent to open the trash bags, at least of which contained identifiable human remains. A search warrant was obtained. Trash bags were sent to the medical examiner's office, unopened, to preserve the potential evidence. Authorities found Cook's wallet and keys in Solis's bedroom. Cook's vehicle was also found about a third of a mile from the home and searched. Trash bag with bloody rags, paper towels, and a time card with Solis's name on it. I don't know what it's doing there. Were found inside the car. Noco said Tuesday that the authorities have not identified a motive, and that it was Solis's father who initially ordered the food on his son's behalf. It's just one of those things you could never answer why, and that's why I feel horrible for the family, Noco said. Spokesperson for Uber said in a statement that the company has been in close contact with the sheriff's office. We are heartbroken by the news of this horrific crime. There is no reason why Mr. Cook shouldn't be home with his family today, and we are keeping his loved ones in our thoughts. Court records show that a judge revoked bond in Solis's case, and it does not appear that he has retained an attorney. Heil told detectives that his original lease was with Solis's father, but that he moved in with his girlfriend, and Solis had been living in the home for the past 2 or 3 months. Heil, his wife, and his daughter left the home last week to stay at a hotel because they did not feel safe in the home with him. Solis was recently released from prison in Indiana, so he's an Indiana reject, and moved in January to Florida, where he failed to register as a convicted felon in the county. Indiana court records show Solis was sentenced in a 2011 case of auto theft and burglary. NOCO said Thursday that Solis had ties to the MS-13 gang and had been involved in a prison stabbing. Now he's been involved in a home dismemberment. And this guy, Mr. Solis, Oscar Adrian Solis, I'll probably pronounce it, looks exactly like you think an MS-13 gang member would look. There's definitely a look to them, and he has the look nailed down. Vegas, I don't know if you want to pull it up on your end, but it's certainly a sight.
Let me see. So Solis, his family left.
His father moved in with his girlfriend. So he then moved in, replacing his father on the lease, I guess. But then the homeowners who also live there, which is weird. It's a weird husband, a wife, and a kid are renting out their home or a room in their home to people like this.
And then they move away because they didn't want to be in the house with him.
I mean, there's got to be something else in this story. Somebody's not saying something.
Oh yeah, he looks, that makes sense.
Right? He looks like an MS-13. Like if this guy moved in, you'd be like, you know what, honey, grab the kid and we're going to a hotel.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't let him move in.
True.
He applies and he comes, to look at the place, and you're like, okay, all right, we're moving. But I mean, MS-13, like, they're known for these horrific things. But I don't know why you randomly murder somebody. I mean, and then he doesn't try to cover it up. He lets the cops search the garbage bags.
No, the homeowner did.
Oh, the homeowner did. Yes. Oh.
Because Mr. Solis forgot that the camera is heavily watched. I mean, the property is heavily watched by cameras.
Oh, he's an idiot. I don't know who
had him leave it.
Who's the bigger idiot? This guy or the three kids throwing rocks on the highway?
This guy is probably the bigger one because he's literally murdering his Uber Eats driver.
Yeah. Not only that, but he's got to know that there's cameras in this house, a Ring doorbell, different things.
Yeah.
So he's got to know that.
Uh-huh.
And so he's got to know that the Uber Eats guy's on the Ring camera.
He's on the Ring camera. You're buying it through an app. I mean, there's all kinds of red flags here, like they call them.
Yeah. And then you dismember him, and then you don't get rid of the evidence. You leave it and put it in the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously not the sharpest tool in the shed, which is probably why he joined MS-13, because he's an idiot. More
waste of a social security number.
Yeah, this guy should be immediately put to death.
DeSantis, just put him down.
Yeah, plug him with a couple shells.
He's an Indiana reject anyway. Just send him back there, and we'll go back there.
Yeah.
So after something like that in the Colorado story, we really need to end this thing on a high note. And we will go to, ironically enough, Mishawaka, Indiana, where a Mishawaka high school student who was abducted 42 years ago.
Oh.
Cold case investigators now say that they know who did it. While police say they now have probable cause to charge 3 suspects in the case, they won't, because all 3 suspects are already dead. In fact, it seems unlikely the case would be solved if they weren't dead. Shelly Ann Werner was just 15 years old when she was abducted from the parking lot of Old Wilt's grocery store on Lincoln Way East in Mishawaka on June 16, 1980. Her body was located 10 days later near an abandoned railroad line on Madison Road in St. Joseph County. An autopsy revealed that she had died of a gunshot wound, and her death, of course, was ruled a homicide. Michiana Crime Stoppers recreated the scene and police released the suspect sketch, but none of the tips received pointed to the 3 suspects now deemed responsible. The reason that some of these things take so long is because of the fear and threats of those suspects put towards witnesses. If they know somebody, they intimidate them, they threaten their families, and that's exactly what happened in this case. In this case, the threats ended only after the lives of the suspects did the same. One passed in 2001, one passed in 2010, and that opened an important witness's mouth. Now that the investigators have closed the book on this case, they say the attack on Werner was not a random one, although she had no close ties to the suspects who were described as having an age difference. She did have some familiarity with family members of the suspects. She would have known who these suspects were and vice versa. The Mishawaka Cold Case Unit is staffed with retired police officers who volunteered their time. Members have known for a while that the suspects in the Werner case were likely deceased, but that didn't slow things down. That kept us going, Campbell said. We know that this girl was assaulted and murdered and left out in the field, and that is, of course, just not right. Police say Werner's parents have also passed away, but her sister is said to be satisfied with how the case has concluded. DNA was not of assistance in this case, Vegas. Unlike all the other cold cases we've ever covered on this show, DNA was not of assistance in this case, in that no identifiable DNA was found on any of the evidence that was sent to the lab. Werner would have been 58 years old today had she survived.
So they got away with it, and
They got away with it.
And they still would have got away with it if they didn't die. But then the witness knew that they died and knew they couldn't come after her. So I'm like, it's kind of one of those things that's like, well, you witnessed it and you said absolutely nothing. For all these years, you said absolutely nothing. And then finally
witnessed it per se, but they knew who did it.
Okay. Either way.
No, but they were threatened with their own lives and their own family. And I mean, wouldn't you keep your mouth shut?
I mean, I'd send a little postcard to the police department. No return address, saying, "Hey, this so and so killed this lady," and
tremendous. She would be 58 years old today. This was published on the 26th. That was yesterday. We always like to end the true crime part of this podcast with a solved cold case. 9 times out of 10, or 99 times out of 100, they include DNA. And this time, it was somebody who was no longer afraid to talk, which is kind of a crazy way to solve a cold case, Vegas.
Well, yeah. Yeah, she finally came, or she or he, I guess, finally came to and said, yeah, these guys did it, and they're already dead, so we're good. But how old were the people that...
They did not say. They did not say. It says there was a slight age difference, but they don't have...
Yeah, so slight. I mean, they would still be alive. They had to die young. I mean, younger than you would normally think, right? Because if she was going to be 58, they probably were in their 60s, early 60s, middle 60s.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously they died previously, so they died not, not very old.
Well, that's okay because they deserve it.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying that they died.
Oh, yeah. No,
they died young,
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, Vegas, this concludes the episode. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or you are listening to the podcast. And if you want to help support the show, $3 a month gets you in the door. Patreon.com/Ford in Vegas. You can follow this show on Twitter at Ford in Vegas. You could buy a Ford in Vegas shirt. You could do so at shop.fordinvegas.com. Premium soft quality is what we recommend. And we are also a proud member of the Darkcast Network, the best indie true crime podcast network on God's green earth. For Vegas, I'm Ford. We'll see you guys next time right here on Ford in Vegas, a true crime podcast with two friends who hate each other. Vegas, any final words?
Go to hell.
All right.